My name is Zoya, and I'm from Boston. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist at Boston Children's Hospital, where I help kids overcome their physical challenges. My story is about how my father's new wife tried to tear our family apart, but karma had other plans. Ready for your session, Eli? I ask, adjusting the therapy equipment as my 8-year-old patient grins at me. Moments like these make my work so rewarding. Watch this, Miss Zoya. Eli beams, taking 3 steps without his walker. I clap enthusiastically. That's amazing. High five, buddy. His laughter fills the room, and I can't help but smile. Later, I meet my best friend Sophie for coffee at our favorite spot near your Boston Common. Your mom would be so proud of you, Zoya, Sophie says, stirring her latte. It's been 3 years since Mom passed, and the ache hasn't faded, but I smile through it. Dad's been my rock, I say. Speaking of, he's coming to dinner tomorrow. How's he doing, living alone in that big house? Sophie asks. Actually, I pause. He's been volunteering at the community center. Says it keeps him busy. The following week, Dad calls, sounding unusually cheerful. Zoya, I met someone, he announces. Her name's Natalie Collins. She runs the center's fundraising committee. I'm happy for him, truly. Mom would want him to find joy again, I think, but things start moving too fast. Natalie is always around, her presence growing like ivy on the walls. One evening, I stop by Dad's house unannounced. Zoya, what a surprise, Natalie says, opening the door like she owns the place. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Inside, I notice something off. Where's Mom's crystal vase? I ask, pointing to the empty spot on the mantel. Oh, that old thing? It was collecting dust, Natalie replies dismissively. I put it somewhere safer. Dad emerges from his study. Natalie's been helping me reorganize, he says, oblivious. The house needed updating. I bite my tongue. 3 weeks later, over dinner, Dad drops the bombshell. Natalie and I are engaged. Her kids, Lucy and Ben, will be moving in next month. My fork clinks onto my plate. Engaged? You've known her for 6 weeks. When you know, he replies dreamily. Natalie's amazing with finances too. She's helping me reorganize my investments. Red flags wave in my mind, but Dad's too smitten to notice. That night, I text Sophie, something's not right about Natalie. Already on it, Sophie replies. Chris's cousin works at the community center. Guess who's been fired from their last 3 jobs? I stare at the message, my stomach churning. This is just the beginning of uncovering who Natalie really is. The changes come swiftly. Natalie hangs abstract art where Mom's cherished garden photographs once were. Erin, where should we put my antique mirror? She asks sweetly. Whatever you think is best, dear, Dad replies absently, barely glancing up from his laptop. During dinner, Lucy whines, I need a MacBook Pro for my projects. The one I have is so old. Of course, sweetie, Dad says, reaching for his credit card. I nearly choke on my water. Since when is Dad this loose with money? Speaking of expenses, Natalie adds, her voice honeyed. Erin, I've been reviewing our account. Zoya's medical school fund is just sitting there since she chose a different career path. We could invest it in Lucy and Ben's education. I freeze. Dad, that was Mom's inheritance money. Now, Zoya, Natalie interjects, you're established in your career. Lucy and Ben are just starting out. Dad nods absent-mindedly. Natalie knows about these things. She's helping secure our family's future. The next week, I call Dad about our tradition of helping with the hospital fundraiser Mom started. It goes straight to voicemail. Later, as I scroll through social media, I freeze. Natalie had posted pictures of Dad at the fundraiser, an event we had always attended together. He was smiling, posing with Natalie and her kids like they were a picture-perfect family. A text buzzes in from Natalie shortly after. Your father thought it best to avoid any awkwardness. You understand, don't you? I didn't reply. Thanksgiving arrived, and I showed up early as always, ready to help cook. I held Mom's sweet potato casserole, just like I did every year. But when Natalie answered the door, her expression was one of exaggerated surprise. Oh, Zoya, did you get my message? We moved dinner to 2 p.m. Everyone finished eating. Stunned, I stood in the doorway as the smell of roasted turkey and spiced cranberry sauce filled the air. Through the dining room window, I saw Dad laughing with Natalie's entire extended family. "There are some leftovers in the kitchen," Natalie said sweetly. "You can eat in your old room if you'd like some quiet time." The words stung, but I said nothing. That night, restless and fueled by suspicion, I logged into Dad's email. He never changed the password Mom set. What I found made my blood run cold: investment statements showing large transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. The next day, I showed the documents to Sophie. Her face darkened as she pulled up her research. "She's a professional con artist, Zoya," Sophie declared, sliding a stack of printed records across the table. "Look at these court filings, 3 different families, same exact pattern. She marries wealthy older men, isolates them from their children, and drains their accounts." Chris joined the investigation, his voice tight with anger. "My cousin at the community center said Natalie was asking about your dad's finances before she even met him. This wasn't random." I started documenting everything: the missing family heirlooms, the unexplained account transfers, and Natalie's increasing control over Dad's life. But every time I tried to confront Dad, Natalie was there, always one step ahead. "Aaron, I'm worried about Zoya's obsession with our finances," she'd say, her voice dripping with concern. "My therapist friend says this behavior often stems from unresolved grief. Maybe she needs professional help." Dad looked at me with pity. "Honey, I know losing your mom was hard, but Natalie's family is now yours. Try to let go." What Natalie didn't realize was that I wasn't about to back down. I had 3 things in my corner: stubborn determination, friends in high places, and a very interesting email from her ex-husband's lawyer. Game on, Natalie. The email led me to Clara Ahrens, a former coworker of Natalie's at Morgan Financial in Chicago. We met at a quiet cafe in downtown Boston, where she slid a thick folder across the table. "Natalie Williams isn't her real name," Clara said, her voice low. "She's Natalie Blackwood, and she's had 4 other last names too." The folder contained everything: termination letters, police reports, and photos. Natalie had worked at 3 major financial firms, each time leaving under suspicion of fraud. "She targets wealthy widowers," Clara explained, leaning closer. "By the time they realize what's happened, the money's gone. Check your father's retirement accounts." That night, I opened Dad's old laptop, which he'd left at my place months ago. My heart pounded as I accessed his retirement portfolio. What I saw was devastating: massive transfers to an offshore account. Over $2 million had vanished in just a few months. As I helped Eli navigate another therapy session, my phone buzzed with a text from Chris. "You need to see this. Ben just got expelled from Bradford Prep. Dad paid $50,000 to keep it quiet." My heart sank as I typed back, "What happened?" "He hacked the school's grading system and sold test answers." "Lucy was involved too," Chris replied. This wasn't just about Natalie anymore. It was unraveling into a full-blown disaster. Determined to uncover the full truth, I dug deeper into Natalie's past. The stories I found followed the same chilling pattern: whirlwind romance, isolation of the spouse, financial drain, and eventual disappearance. One story stood out: Aaron Chun in San Francisco, a man who had escaped her clutches. We connected over video chat. "She almost destroyed my family," Aaron said, his expression grim. "She had access to all my accounts, transferring money daily. My daughter discovered it, just like you. But Natalie's clever. She manipulates her victims into feeling too ashamed to press charges." The next day, Dad called, his voice hesitant. "Zoya, Natalie thinks it's time we update my will. You understand, right? Lucy and Ben need security." My stomach dropped. She was almost at the finish line, but Natalie had made a critical mistake. At her previous job at Boston Capital Group, I contacted their head of security, Miss Taylor, who responded immediately. "We've been building a case," she said. "Natalie Blackwood's activities fit a pattern, and we're investigating multiple victims across 5 states. I provided all the evidence I had: bank transfers, Clara's files, and the documented behavior patterns. Miss Taylor connected me with FBI agent Hannah Martinez, a specialist in financial crimes. You're not alone, Agent Martinez assured me. We've linked her to over $15 million in fraud, but we need fresh evidence. That weekend, I noticed Natalie's brand new luxury car. The dealership paperwork, conveniently left in Dad's office, confirmed my suspicions. As I photographed it, Natalie appeared in the doorway, her smile icy. Looking for something? She asked coolly. Just Dad's old fishing photos, I replied evenly, though my heart raced. Natalie stepped closer, her voice lowering. Let me make something clear. Your father signed everything over to me, his accounts, this house. He doesn't need you anymore. Back off, or I'll make sure you never see him again. I met her gaze unwavering. You know what's funny, Natalie? Con artists get so focused on their schemes, they forget to cover their own tracks. Her confidence wavered slightly. What she didn't know was that her assistant had already tipped off Agent Martinez, who now had access to all of Natalie's incriminating activities. The dominoes fell. The following Tuesday morning, during Eli's therapy session, my phone lit up with Chris's text, "It's happening. Natalie's been detained by the FBI at her office." Simultaneously, agents raided our family home. They uncovered evidence of a sprawling financial fraud operation, including attempts to transfer our family home into her name. Dad sat in shock, holding shredded documents the agents had pieced back together. "I've been such a fool, Zoya," he whispered. "You were right about everything." The next day, headlines blazed. Financial advisor arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Families from Seattle, Chicago, and San Francisco came forward. Lucy and Ben, it turned out, had been living with their real father in Arizona. They weren't even in high school, but were working as Natalie's accomplices. The FBI recovered most of Dad's money, thanks to Natalie's assistant's meticulous records. 6 months later, I stood on stage at Boston Children's Hospital, accepting the Reynolds Award for Excellence in Pediatric Therapy. In the audience, Dad smiled proudly. Slowly but surely, we were rebuilding our relationship. At Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner in my downtown apartment. Sophie brought her famous apple pie, Chris recreated Grandma's stuffing, and Dad brought Mom's sweet potato casserole. As we raised our glasses of sparkling cider, Dad toasted to the family we choose and the ones who choose us. I looked around the room at the people who stood by me during the darkest times. This was real family. Meanwhile, Natalie faced 25 years in federal prison with no chance of early release. What would you have done if you discovered your parents' new spouse was secretly stealing their life savings? Would you quietly gather evidence like I did, or confront them immediately? Share your thoughts in the comments, because knowing you're not alone is the first step to fighting back.